Welcome to The Explainer. You know, right now, something big is shifting in Canada's economy. We're moving away from just promises and into something way more powerful, real economic partnership. So let's dig in and see what that actually looks like.
So let's start with the big question. What does it really take to build an economy that includes everyone? Well, in Canada, a huge part of the answer is this powerful concept called economic reconciliation. And this isn't about just, tweaking a few numbers. It's about fundamentally rewriting the economic rulebook with Indigenous peoples.
All right, so what are we really talking about when we say economic reconciliation? Let's get past the buzzword. At its heart, it's about correcting historical wrongs. But the real key is in how. And I want to be really clear here. This is not about charity. It's about empowerment. It's about creating real, solid economic opportunities, boosting entrepreneurship, and this is so important, recognizing the inherent right to self-determination. It's a whole new framework that's built on rights.
And make no mistake, this isn't just some nice idea floating around. It's a formal national commitment. The goal here is to build something totally new, something that's genuinely equitable, and to build it together.
Okay, so we have the big idea. But ideas are just words until you put them into action, right? So let's look at how this all started to get real, concrete momentum, especially in 2023.
I mean, just look at this timeline. In one single year, we went from proposing a framework in March to holding major talks in May, to getting new resources out there in June, and then boom, a massive loan program in November. That's not a slow crawl. That's real, tangible momentum.
So how did it start? Well, you got to start somewhere. The first step was this initial $5 million from Budget 2023. Now, the number might seem small, but its purpose was revolutionary. This money was specifically to co-develop the framework with Indigenous partners, not to design it in an office and then impose it on them. That's a huge difference.
And then things got serious, really serious. The Canada Infrastructure Bank, the CIB, came to the table with a massive commitment. $1 billion for its Indigenous Equity Initiative. This is where things get truly transformative.
So here's why that $1 billion is such a game changer. It's not just money for a project. It's capital for Indigenous communities to buy in and become owners. We're talking direct loans to purchase equity, to get ownership stakes in huge infrastructure projects. This creates long-term wealth, real assets, and a permanent seat at the economic table. That's a massive shift from how things used to be done.
Of course, a journey this important is never going to be a simple, straight line. There are some very real obstacles that still need to be tackled.
So, with all this incredible progress, you might be thinking the path forward is clear, right? Well, it's not quite that simple. Acknowledging the challenges that are still out there is just as important as celebrating the wins.
There are still some pretty big hurdles. I mean, it's one thing to have a $1 billion fund, but it's another to make sure every community has fair access to it. There's still huge infrastructure gaps on the ground, and let's be honest, decades of bureaucratic red tape, that stuff doesn't just vanish overnight. The next big test is turning all this powerful theory into everyday practice.
And that really brings us to the most critical change of all, the approach. The old way was always top-down. Policies were designed somewhere else and then just pushed onto communities. The new way, it's all about co-development and Indigenous-led solutions. It's about putting the control and the decision-making power back where it belongs, in the hands of the communities themselves.
And this is where the story gets even bigger, because this isn't just about one group's success. This is about building a stronger, better economy for all of Canada.
This quote really just says it all, doesn't it? This is not a zero-sum game. When Indigenous communities and businesses are thriving, the entire economy becomes more resilient, more innovative, and stronger for everyone. At the end of the day, it's about creating prosperity we can all share in. So you might be sitting there thinking, okay, this is great, but what can I actually do? Well, there are clear, actionable steps for all of us. You can actively research and support Indigenous-owned businesses. You can take the time to learn the meaning and context behind land acknowledgements in business. You can even advocate for more inclusive buying policies right where you work. There's a role for everyone in this movement.
So the foundation is being laid for a brand new economic reality in Canada,
one that's built on partnership, on equity, and on shared wealth. The final question really isn't if this will change things, it's about how profoundly this shift towards shared prosperity will redefine the country's future for all the generations to come.